All right, we have Andre's image here. You're at ISO 100, nice and low, 70 millimeters, f2.8 at 1/250th of a second. So all of those settings are looking good. The longer lens, I think, works for you in this situation. As I've been repeating, I just encourage students to shoot with a little bit of a longer lens for portraits. The light that you're working with is hard light. It's coming across your subject's face, but we're not able to see their face anyway, so any hard shadows that might be cast from the shadow of the nose or anything are not there, so there's no issue here. She's illuminated in this bright, bright midday sun. So the lighting's working fine. I think you might want to bring in a reflector if you were photographing this and she didn't have a mask on, but as it is, it's working fine. Now, she's just finished, I think you said, a bike race. So I can assume that around her, there's a lot happening. There's people warming up on their trainers. There's people getting ready for their next race, checking scores, all of these things, right? And the narrative of her sport is not her in front of a brick wall like this. Rather, it would be her, she could be standing, it could be a formal portrait like this, but with what's going on around her, with a race going on behind her. I think that would tell a lot more of the narrative. Here, because we're not able to see her face, we're just able to see her jersey. We're not getting that much information about her. I don't think you could even know 100% for sure, unless you're looking really carefully, like right up in here, that this is a cyclist. So I know that she has the helmet on, but so I think adding the element of having more of the environment around her could really build out this narrative for us. So it can be a portrait of her. She could be with her bike, and there could be more going on behind her. I really feel like you had this great moment to photograph where there's a race going on, and there's different heats of the race and all these different races going on at the same time. So you have a lot that you can pull from, and you wanted to simplify this. So you put her in front of a wall, and it just simplified it to a point that lost a lot of the narrative that you could hold on to. So I'd push you as you continue to this project, which I know is your final project, to really figure out what your narrative is and figure out what around is too busy and what around is going to push that narrative for you. This is by ZinZin. You're at ISO 100, 35 millimeters, so a little bit of a wide angle lens here, f4.5 at 1/200th of a second. So those settings are all looking fine. You have your subject up against a white wall. You have light coming in from the right side of the image, falling across her face. It'd be great if we could get a little bit more of a catchlight in her eyes, but the light coming across her, it's a little bit on the flatter side, but we do get some good fall off. The light on her clothes, on the other hand, we don't have any detail there, right? So as I look to see like where her shirt is or the wrinkles on her shirt, I'm not seeing any of that. And I don't know if that's something you did in post-processing or if that's something like if you increase the contrast in post-processing, but we'd like to see the detail here. I know you, as fashion especially, know the importance of seeing the detail in the clothing. The narrative of her boxing and being in a boxing, coming out of boxing practice, we have the gloves on her, but there's not really anything else with that narrative. And putting her up against the white wall kind of simplifies it. And it simplifies it in a way that I think is cleaner and more successful than the rock wall that we just saw. So I think the white wall lends itself to being more of like a formal Avedon sort of portrait, right? But if she just finished her practice, I think there's a lot there that you could pull from also with her gym bag, with even if you could photograph her in the boxing gym or outside of the boxing gym. So there's more to tell this story. I'm sure she's one of just a handful of females that are doing this. It's a male dominated sport. So that could really build into this narrative of who she is and how she's willing to push herself. All right, this image is by Zixin. You're at ISO 400, 35 millimeters, f5.6 at 1/200th of a second. So again, those settings are all looking fine, but I would encourage you to shoot with a little bit of a longer lens for portraits. And I'll post that image that we looked at for, maybe I saw that open here. Yeah, I'll post this image for you to take a closer look and see how that distortion can happen with the wider angle lens. But you have your subject up against a white background, and you said you wanted kind of a Jason Mraz sort of feeling. The light that you're using is softer lighting coming across the subject's face, falling off. It's nice lighting for this image. It does give that softer feel. And the background, you just have a white background. When you're using just a sheet as your white background, you just need to make sure that you iron it out so that we can see it as nothing, right? We don't want to see the details of the wrinkles. But in this case, different than the school portraits or class portraits, here having the little bit of a shadow behind your subject, I think can actually work. So I don't think that's a problem here. The narrative that you have of your subject as being a musician, this is sort of the band photo, right? Leaning on the guitar, I think has a real nice laid back feeling to it. It does feel a little bit tight, right? Cropping into the guitar and into the arms on both sides feels a little bit tight, and this image seems like it would lend itself more to a horizontal image instead of a vertical image. I'd also be careful of the edges, as we are seeing this edge here. If you are going to keep it as a vertical image, just cropping that little bit out is going to make that a cleaner image. So I would encourage you to shoot this vertically, but if you are shooting it horizontally to get rid of that edge there, because that is an extra distraction for us. And then this image is Joseph's image, and Joseph, this was shot with an iPhone, so all images need to be shot with a department-approved camera unless you're getting approval from me first and you have a concept that's related to shooting on mobile. But just shooting your images on mobile is not going to be acceptable. The light that you're using is open shade. It's actually kind of beautiful lighting on your subject here. But the narrative and where this fits as far as the different types of photography that we're looking at isn't really clear to me. Seems like it's like a casual business that this subject is wearing, but he's under a carport at like an apartment complex. I'm not putting together, this isn't a class photo, this isn't a baby photo, this isn't a band photo, this isn't a team, a sports photo, so I'm not sure where this lands in this assignment.